What if I told you that today's question period wasn't just heated, it was historic? One of those political moments where the entire House shifts, the media scrambles, and viewers across the country sit up, because something unusual, something electrifying, has just happened. And here's the twist, it wasn't Mark Carney who delivered the blows. It wasn't even the Prime Minister. It was the team behind him, stepping into the spotlight in a way that Pierre Poilievre absolutely did not see coming. If you think you've seen fiery exchanges in Parliament before, trust me, today's session is on another level. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why people are calling it a turning point in Canadian politics. Today's session in the House of Commons was nothing short of explosive. And for once, it wasn't Mark Carney delivering the knockout blows. It was his team. It was his bench. And it was a reminder that while Pierre Poilievre loves to pick fights, he often forgets that this government has multiple heavyweights who are more than capable of exposing his weak attacks. And that's exactly what happened today. Poilievre walked into the chamber ready to launch another round of baseless accusations at Carney. This time trying to paint him as the reason behind job losses and rising food bank usage. But it wasn't the Prime Minister who responded. It was Melanie Jolie who stepped in. And what happened next instantly became the highlight of question period. Joly did not just respond. She dismantled the entire premise of Poilievre's question calmly, precisely, and with a level of confidence that left the House buzzing. It was one of those moments where you could feel the dynamic shift instantly. Poilievre came expecting to land a hit, but instead found himself being schooled on economic reality in geopolitical context. And the best part, Joly wasn't the only one who shut him down today. Champagne and Gregor Robertson followed with their own blistering responses, each one sharper than the last, leaving Poilievre visibly frustrated, cornered, and outmatched. Today was a masterclass in how Carney's team operates. United, prepared, and unwilling to let misinformation stand.
Speaker, today Algoma announced it's laying off 1,000 steel workers, nearly a third of its workforce in the Soo. Our thoughts are with them. The Prime Minister looked them in the eye and promised he would protect their jobs, that he would negotiate a win, and I quote, have a deal by July 21st, but it was a bait and switch that is costing people their livelihoods. On top of that, Liberals are hammering the steel mill with a higher industrial carbon tax. Isn't it bad enough that the Prime Minister broke his promise on trade? Why is he going ahead with an industrial carbon tax that will kill even more steel jobs?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, our thoughts are with the workers affected by the unjustified and unjustifiable tariffs imposed by the White House, and we'll continue to work with them as Algoma Steel is going through a difficult situation, to say the least. Mr. Speaker, my team and I have been in contact with Algoma's leadership team. We absolutely have every confidence in the Algoma workers as they're going through this hardship, and we will make sure that we support them as they're developing new products and also accessing new markets. We'll fight for these jobs.
Now imagine this, Poilievre opens with full theatrics, drama, outrage, the whole act, claiming Carney bait and switched steel workers, and that carbon pricing is about to wipe out even more jobs. But instead of engaging in the usual Trudeau versus Poilievre spectacle, a different figure rises. Melanie Jolie. Calm. Controlled. And ready. Poilievre opened with a dramatic claim that Carney bait and switched steel workers, and that carbon pricing would destroy even more jobs. But instead of the usual back and forth, it was Joly who rose to respond. Her message was clear. Canada is dealing with undisciplined and unjustified US tariffs, and the government stands firmly with Canadian steel workers. She explained that her team has already been in direct contact with Algoma leadership and that Canada will support workers as they adapt, innovate, and find new markets. The power of her response came from what Poilievre didn't expect. Someone who knew the details, understood the complexity, and refused to let him twist the narrative. It was calm. It was precise. It was devastating. Unhappy with the fact that his first hit failed, Poilievre came back swinging. This time weaponizing Ontario's food bank numbers, trying to suggest that Carney and the Liberals are pushing Canadians into hunger. Joly didn't flinch. She reminded him that Canada's decisions are shaped by a rapidly shifting geopolitical environment, especially the United States' own energy decisions, which is why Canada must build energy sovereignty. Her point was simple. Responsible leadership means protecting Canada from foreign volatility, not pairing talking points designed for outrage. She didn't just reject Poilievre's framing. She exposed its emptiness. The House clearly felt it.
Speaker, more promises and more liberal thoughts will not put food on the table of those out-of-work steelworkers. And they're not alone. The Liberal food cost crisis is growing, according to today's Feed Ontario report, which reveals that food bank use is up 13% in 1 year and 165% since this Prime Minister became the economic advisor to this Liberal government. 8.7 million Ontario visits in 1 year to the Ontario Food Bank, while this Prime Minister hikes carbon taxes on food production. Why is he driving more people into hunger with higher taxes?
And here's the moment where viewers at home started texting each other. Did you just see that? Joly wasn't rattled. She wasn't defensive. She flipped Poilievre's attack by bringing in global context, geopolitics, energy instability, US tariffs, and suddenly his talking points didn't just fall apart, they evaporated. But Poilievre. He pushed forward anyway. He always does. This time, he tried a different angle, a more emotional one, food prices. After 2 failed attempts, Poilievre switched to something he assumed would land harder, food affordability. He tried to blame rising grocery prices on carbon pricing, claiming Canadians were being driven into hunger. That's when Champagne stood up. And what followed was one of the most forceful takedowns of the day. Champagne reminded everyone watching that this government has already delivered tax reductions for 22 million Canadians, and that every measure supporting affordability Poilievre and his Conservatives voted against. The line that stunned the House. When we protect workers, families in this country, they stand in the way. It was sharp. It was factual. And it landed exactly the way Champagne intended.
The supports that those Canadians want and need is a paycheck, Mr. Speaker.
Exactly.
And they want to be able to afford food. They should be able. In a country with this much farmland and this much wealth, our people should be able to eat. But according to the latest report by Feed Ontario, there's been a 165% increase in food bank use in Ontario alone since this Prime Minister joined this government. Yet he wants to go ahead with an industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, food processors, and fertilizer that will drive up the cost of food. Why does he get fat on his tax havens while he tax?
Mr. Speaker, it's amazing to hear the Leader of the Opposition, because the first thing we did is to make sure that Canadians would have more money in their pocket, Mr. Speaker. We, in fact, reduced taxes for Canadians, 22 million Canadians. But you know what, Mr. Speaker, what's most disturbing for Canadians watching at home? At every step of the way, where we were there for families, where we were there for workers, where we were there for Canadians, they stand in the way, Mr. Speaker. That's the leader who voted against Canadian. On this side of the House, we believe in Canada. We're going to grow this country. We're going to work for families. We're going to protect the worker. We're going to build Canada, Mr. Speaker.
If Joly's response was a scalpel, Champagne's was a hammer. He wasn't just responding, he was exposing voting records, undercutting narratives, and reminding Canadians who actually supported affordability measures and who blocked them. And just when you think Poilievre might pause, he doesn't. Instead, he plunges headfirst into the housing file, a file that should be his safe zone. But today, it wasn't. Instead of reassessing his approach, Poilievre doubled down yet again. This time attacking Carney on housing, accusing him of taxing builders while hiding money abroad. It was a messy combination of half-truths and desperation. Gregor Robertson rose and calmly reminded Poilievre of the facts. If the Conservatives actually cared about housing affordability, they would have voted for the latest budget containing $13 billion for affordable housing, $1 billion to fight homelessness. A GST break for first-time home buyers. Poilievre voted against all of it. Robertson made the Conservative position unmistakably clear. They block solutions, then complain about the problem. It was the final blow in a sequence of events where Poilievre came to attack Carney, but only succeeded in exposing his own contradictions.
Prime Minister didn't just break his promises on food, also on housing. He said he'd double home building. But today, a report out from the Missing Middle shows that housing starts are down 34% across 34 Ontario municipalities. Condo starts down 51%. Yet the Prime Minister goes ahead with a Liberal industrial carbon tax on the steel, aluminum, glass, and other inputs required to build homes. It is a tax on homes, all while he hides his millions of dollars in a Bermuda tax haven. Why does he hide his money abroad while taxing homes here in Canada?
Mr. Speaker, if the Leader of the Opposition and Conservatives actually cared about affordable housing, they would have voted for the budget with $13 billion for affordable housing. Mr. Speaker, they could have voted for $1 billion to fight homelessness and build supportive housing. These Conservatives stalled the first-time homebuyers GST break since June. They have no credibility on affordable housing, Mr. Speaker.
You could feel the temperature in the House drop after that. Robertson didn't yell. He didn't provoke. He simply laid out the facts, and in politics, facts delivered calmly can sometimes be the deadliest weapon in the room. What makes today so interesting is not just the content of Poilievre's questions. It's the fact that none of Carney's ministers were willing to let those attacks pass unchallenged. Joly, Champagne, Robertson. All three delivered sharp, detailed, confident responses that show the strength of the team behind the Prime Minister. Poilievre came looking for an easy headline. Instead, he got a lesson in what happens when you underestimate the depth of talent on the government bench. And while he tried to frame today as a showdown with Mark Carney, all he really achieved was proving how isolated he has become. His attacks fell flat. His arguments were contradicted by his own voting record. And his attempt to manufacture chaos only highlighted the calm, coordinated leadership on the other side of the aisle. Today wasn't about winning an argument. It was about showing Canadians the difference between noise and leadership. And on a day when Carney didn't have to say a single word to defend himself, his ministers did it for him powerfully. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, make sure to subscribe. Your support helps this channel keep growing and keeps these stories coming. Before you go, let me ask you. Did today reveal a weakness in Poilievre's strategy? Did Carney's ministers just redefine how this government deals with political attacks? And do you think today marks a shift in public momentum, or just the beginning of an even bigger clash? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single one. If this breakdown gave you clarity, context, or just a bit of entertainment, make sure to like, subscribe, and tap the bell. More in-depth political coverage is coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next.